Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Thursday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to carry. It's Thursday. You know what that means? That means we'll have our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter, Brent Beaird, join us here in just a second. And then Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup with Marty Pallman. We got all the Final Four set in high school football here in the state of Florida. But first, let's go ahead and head on over to the Titan Moore Hotline, and we're joined by Brent. Good morning, Brent. How are you?
Shane, I'm doing well. Good to be on with you. Man, there is so much stuff that's going on. Your head's on a swivel right now between the Heisman and the coaching vacancies, and then hopefully we'll finally settle in and enjoy some championship games on Saturday.
That's true, and I failed to mention Gators losing their first game of the year in basketball last night to Oklahoma. Didn't shoot the ball real well, got down big, came back, took the lead, and that happens on the road a lot in basketball.
Yep.
But I still like the way these guys play, and lost to a good Oklahoma team. Brent, like you said, real quick before we jump into all these championship games this week, obviously we know who's playing in them, but I haven't really followed the college football playoffs this year as I normally do. And I was watching a basketball game. I guess it was, Tuesday night. And across the little ticker, it said something about the CFP committee has not determined if they're going to have expansion. Did I read that correctly?
Well, what happened, the committee met yesterday, and what they have basically determined, and look, they're still meeting. They're going to be meeting again in January. Now, I give Brett McMurphy credit for this. What they have agreed on is that they should expand, and this is also fascinating, that they prefer first-round games played on campus. Now, I love that. I sure hope that happens. However, the problem is they can't agree if Power 5 conferences should receive automatic bids or not. That is the biggest holdup. The next meeting is in January. So they're inching along and making progress, but they have not yet said, okay, these are the criteria, and this is when we're going to start it. That's when we can get excited. But for whatever reason, frankly, Shane, they ought to lock these guys in a room and not let them out until they come up with a decision.
Yeah, that's very, very true, because it's somewhat confusing. At least I was confused when I saw that. All right, Brent, so we got the conference championship games set. I think if Georgia wins, which we all think they're going to win, but anything can happen. Alabama's been an underdog in this game before, and they've won. Michigan, I don't think should have any problems. The Cincinnati-Houston game is very intriguing to me, and obviously Oklahoma State-Baylor. Okay, so there could be some shuffling around if there's some upsets, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, I don't think every one of these games will be upsets, but some of them will. Houston is very capable of beating Cincinnati. The game's in Cincinnati. So that would not be a humongous surprise. Michigan and Iowa, I think Michigan probably will do what it's done all year. They've been more of a physical presence on the line of scrimmage, running the ball, and could see that probably continue, which would be a tremendous year for Michigan if that happens. Ohio State and Baylor, that frankly is kind of up in the air when you look at that. So there's still a lot to be determined. Again, remember, Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, Cincinnati are top 4. The teams on the outside right now, Oklahoma State, Notre Dame, can't forget them, and Ohio State's at 7. Ole Miss is 8, and people forget that. Baylor's all the way at 9. So, again, I mean, it's just pure speculation at this point. It's where this may go. But, yes, there certainly could be some surprises. And, Shane, I'm telling you, and frankly, I hope I'm wrong, but I still will be surprised, even with a win over Houston, if Cincinnati gets in the Final Four.
So you think if Oklahoma State beats Baylor, and even if Cincinnati wins, Oklahoma State can jump them?
Yeah, I think anything's possible with this committee. Now, to the committee's credit, they've had Cincinnati in as of late, but the question is, are they just, as they would say, a placekeeper, or are they sincere and would really be willing to put Cincinnati in? Until we see them in for the Final Four, I remain skeptical.
Yeah, my question is, who thought it was a good idea to put Cincinnati-Houston at the same time as the SEC championship game?
That's a great question. I don't know. That wasn't very smart. Frankly, Shane, what they should have done was to have had Houston-Cincinnati like tonight or tomorrow night. And they would have been much better off to have done that and given them. And see, that's part of the problem that Cincinnati's got is that they need to be in their own kind of unique time slot, and unfortunately, that didn't happen.
Natasha says here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Melton Law. 2 days ago, I asked about the Notre Dame DC moving to the head coaching job. Looks like this may be a real possibility. Is it been formally announced yet, or do you think it's still going to happen?
You mean as far as Marcus Freeman, the defensive coordinator, taking over? Yes. Pretty much all over Twitter, that's what it's saying, is that Marcus Freeman will likely be the new Notre Dame head coach. He's been on the staff. They are elevating him to that position, is what it looks like. Not done yet. Very possibly done today. And I think a lot of people thought, frankly, that Luke Fickell would get that job and Notre Dame would just wait on him. But that's not the case. Now, again, and you and I have seen this before, is the fact of it's an easy transition. The players like him. Now, look, there's no denying he's done a good job. But is that ultimately the answer? And we don't know that. But the reality of it is situations like this have not always worked to where you just elevate on someone on the staff because everything would be pretty smooth along with that. So we will see. But yes, so if that's the route they go, and that's what it looks like, that will probably be made official, certainly I would think, by today or tomorrow.
Yeah, we got you sent me here the buyouts of these coaches. You got Ogeron at $17 million, Dan Mullen at $12 million, Brent Beaird at $11 million. Clay Helton got $12 million. Good gracious, I didn't realize that. But boy, it is. I always tell myself I wish I would not have played professional football and got into coaching right away, because that's a pretty good deal to get fired.
Listen, it's a dream come true now, is it not? And Shane, the money, the money now is what's astronomical. We were flabbergasted by Mel Tucker getting basically 10 years, $95 million. Now you've got reportedly Lincoln Riley getting 10 years for $110 million, and then Brian Kelly at LSU getting 10 years for $100 million. So, I mean, it doesn't take long to do the math and what these guys are making at this point. Now, what has been said very little about is Nick Saban has got in his contract that he has got to be in the top, I think it's three or four of the top salaries. So he'll sit quietly by as Jimmy Sexton helps Alabama redo that contract at some point. So, but look, seriously, the money's just unbelievable. And man, I remember it really wasn't that long ago, was Shane, when we couldn't believe it, when coaches were making $2 to $4 million a year.
Yeah, I believe Bobby Bowden was the first $1 million coach, and I think Coach Spurrier was the first $2 million coach.
Yeah.
But it's crazy now. Scott has a Facebook Live here, brought to you by Metal Law. He wants to know any truth to the Gators targeting Brent Venables as the new DC. I've heard that too, but he's got kids that play at Clemson. I just have a hard time seeing him leave there unless he's the head coach at Oklahoma.
Well, that's what I was going to add. There is conjecture that he could be one of the Oklahoma candidates. I don't know if they would go with and again, it really doesn't matter because if you can coach, you can coach. But is there? I'm just asking this out loud, Shane. Is there a perception with Venables being a D coordinator, as long as he has been, that they would go more for an offensive guy because that's what they're used to with Lincoln Riley? I don't know the answer to that, frankly. But at this point, and Matt Campbell's name's been mentioned for a lot of these jobs too at Oklahoma. Josh Heupel to Tennessee, but I don't think he'll leave after a year. Kendall Briles, Lane Kiffin's name, Jeff Lebby, both from Ole Miss, have come up with that. So at this point, Venables has done a good job, but there's no question about that. He'd be a great D coordinator. But my question to you, Shane, is, and I don't know the answer to this either, would Venables look at another D coordinator job as more of a lateral move when a head coaching job obviously would not be?
Yeah, I don't see how there's any way we'd get him as defensive coordinator. That's just my personal opinion. I have no sources in it, nothing there. But you're right. Going from Clemson to Florida to be the DC, I don't know why Oklahoma, unless they have, Stoops is taking over right now, trying to keep everybody organized. Does he come back out of retirement? If not, I think they're crazy if they don't offer Josh Heupel the job.
Well, agreed. Now Heupel has said that he's going to stay at Tennessee. Listen, if Lane Kiffin had not left Tennessee after a year, I think Heupel may be more willing to make that move, because you're right. It would be the logical thing to do. But again, and I'm not being accusatory against Heupel, but you and I both know what coaches say and they actually do are sometimes two different things.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly if it's a school where everybody thinks that's where you should end up.
Yeah, Brent, we haven't talked to you since they officially named Billy Napier the new football coach here at Florida. What can you tell us? A lot of people, they've read about Coach Napier, don't know a whole lot about him. We know he's been around the SEC. He's been at Clemson. Do you know him personally? Have you ever met him?
No, but I know people who do and have followed his career for quite a while. I think he's a tremendous hire. I really do. He is a now. People need to listen to this. He may not win the press conference, but that doesn't matter.
I've never been one of those that gave a dang about the press conference or your interview.
Right.
Coach Spurrier and I talk all the time about how some of these guys get hired around the country, and it's because they interview well.
Yes.
I don't care if you can interview great or not. Can you coach and call plays? That's more important. Yeah.
That's all that matters. And that's the point. And for Gator fans, your listeners and viewers need to understand that Billy Napier, he's a Georgia guy, young guy, tremendous potential. He is. There's so many things going for him. He is a tremendous recruiter. I think number one of the things that impressed me the most, and I'll move through this quickly, but was when he was fired at Clemson. He was a 29-year-old coordinator at Clemson, the youngest in the nation. He said it knocked the arrogance out of him, and that it really humbled him, which was something that was refreshing to be able to hear. Now, who he hires on his staff, I think is going to be very important. I've heard names, Shane, like you have, like Doug Belk from Houston. The Oklahoma State D coordinator, Knowles, I've heard him mentioned. Glenn Schumann, the co-DC at Georgia. Chris Rump, who's with the Bears. Daquan Bowers. I've heard his name, Bo Davis at Texas. I've even heard Kevin Steele's name, the former Auburn D coordinator. I've heard Mike Peterson. I'm curious if you've heard that. The linebackers coach at South Carolina. So the staff's going to be very important along that way. The guy's a winner. Has a gaudy record at Louisiana. He is coaching their championship game. So in a nutshell, to me, I think it's a solid hire, and it could be a excellent hire in a few years.
Yep. Brandon asked here, QB, I know you said some players should transfer, but I didn't think Bogle was one that needed to transfer. Chris Bogle goes into the transfer portal yesterday. I don't know. I have a feeling there's going to be a bunch of them going into the transfer portal, maybe after they meet with Billy Napier, because, again, I feel like it's a way that coaches can clean house without any bad publicity.
Right.
But we'll wait and see. I just don't think we got great talent. That's all I'm saying. That's just my opinion.
Well, and just real quick on that, remember, for our listeners, if you go in the transfer portal, does not mean that you either transfer or you stay there. So, right. After Shane's right, after he talked to some of these guys, that may change their mind. But at the same time, if you need a cleansing of this roster, that is not going to hurt either for him to bring in his guys. So at some point, Shane, I think you just got to trust your coach that he will manage the roster. And I can tell you from what we know about Napier, he'll do an outstanding job with this roster. But it ain't happening overnight.
No. But like I said, he's going to watch tape of everybody on this team, and I'm telling you right now, if you ain't giving great effort, he's going to let you know that, and he may say, hey, the way you play, you need to move on somewhere else. Right. Turn your car or truck into a rolling billboard for your business or brand with an eye-catching vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot this December. Mention promo code Shane and receive 13% off your vehicle wrap. A few more minutes with Brent Beaird, our college football analyst. Brent, I got a couple of some Titan MRI text line questions. Kevin asked, what happened with Les Miles that nobody wants him? I haven't heard his name for any coaching jobs. He was involved with all that scandalous stuff at LSU, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, there are two things on Les Miles. Number one, Les will never get out of his conservative 3 yards in a cloud of dust offense. That's one thing that's hurt him over the years. And number two, as Shane said, and again, we'll leave them as allegations, but there were allegations out of LSU involving some co-eds, and I'm not saying anything even happened. I'm just saying there were allegations of some improper conduct on his part, and beyond that, nobody really knows. So I think that's the two things holding him back.
And our other text on the Titan More text line comes from Daryl. He says, Brent, do you think Dan Mullen ends up in Jacksonville with Urban?
I guess anything's possible. The reality is that the way they're going is Urban going to be there at the end of the year, frankly. And let me say this, that there's some question about Urban going to Notre Dame. That was not going to happen. Particularly after the video that got out, because the people in charge at Notre Dame were not going to deal with that. So that's something that was not going to happen. So yes, so the urban situation, and again, I mean, look, Dan Mullen has a good reputation as a quarterback, a developer, and play caller, etc. I mean, will he find a job? I think he will, and who knows? I mean, by the time the dust clears, some of these jobs continue to come open. Anything may happen along that line. So I think right now anything's possible for him.
Let's jump into the SEC title game. I think it's the best atmosphere in all of football, including the Super Bowl. It's including the Super Bowl. It's including the college national championship game. There is nothing like the Georgia Dome or whatever the heck it's called, Mercedes-Benz Dome. There's nothing like this place come Saturday. Alabama comes in as the underdog. I guess they have to win this game, or at least lose a close one if something else were to happen to get back into the playoffs. What do you think about this game, Brent?
Well, I mean, it could be a tremendous game. I mean, to me, Georgia's got the advantage. The bottom line for this game is, can Alabama block Georgia? And Bama's had trouble blocking teams. They had trouble blocking Auburn. They had trouble blocking A&M. They had trouble blocking, LSU. So can they do that with Georgia, who's got the best front seven, frankly, in the nation? Now, Bama's won 6 straight meetings here. They're an underdog for the first time since Halloween of 2015. And again, that was Georgia. That's amazing, isn't it, Shane, to think about that. So I think what they've got to do, and I'm real curious what you think with this. I think Bama's not going to get into 2 tight end and 2 running backs and run the ball. Georgia won't let them do that. So what they've got to do, and help me on this, Shane, they've either got to go to 4 wides or 5 wides and spread the field. Now, Georgia's weakness is in their secondary. And if Bryce Young has time to throw, he could be very effective against the Georgia secondary. But that's the problem in the chain, is Georgia doesn't give you time to throw. So that's what's going to be important. And how will Stetson Bennett do? And I think he'll be fine on the big stage here. Their running game is very deep. Alabama's is not. Brian Robinson got hurt in the Auburn game. How much he'll play, we don't know. So, and can Georgia block Will Anderson, who frankly is going to be mentioned as some of the Heisman ballots along that time too. Stetson Bennett averages 10.9 yards per attempt. That's second, guys, second in the nation. That's amazing when you think about that. So, I think Georgia wins just simply because of the blocking mismatch. But I think can Bama win? Yes. Psychologically, that's an improvement, but you don't win on psychology, do you, Shane? To me, it's still blocking and tackling. And can Bama get the ball down the field?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that stand out to me in this game. Obviously, Alabama has struggled on the offensive line running the football this year. I think Alabama will do what they've been doing, staying in 10 personnel or 11 personnel, which that means there'll be 1 tight end and 3 receivers, or no tight ends and 4 receivers. But, because Billingsley, or their tight end position is basically a wide out. They're going to need to spread them out. And Bryce Young, I would let him throw the ball 50 to 60 times in this game. I think he's a good enough thrower, smart enough, has great pocket awareness that they can drop back and they can block him long enough for him to make decisions. They're not going to be able to run the ball at all on Georgia. This is by far the biggest test for Georgia's defense because of the throwing ability of Bryce Young and the receivers on the outside. I think Alabama's got tremendous skill players. I think they're lacking at the O-line position. And then on the other hand, Alabama's going to need to force Stetson Bennett to not play comfortable. He's played really well this year. I'm a huge fan of his, but they're going to have to do something to disrupt him and, make him beat you, I guess. But I still think Georgia's just got too many players. It's their year. I think they find a way to win. You sent me a stat here it's truly amazing. about the talent that the Georgia Bulldogs have, according to 24/7. And it says Georgia has more 5-stars, 19 of them, on its opening day roster than the rest of the current college football playoffs top 6 combined. That means Michigan's got 3, Alabama's got 14, and Cincinnati has none, Oklahoma State has none, and Notre Dame has 1. That's pretty amazing.
Well, I mean, it's recruiting, frankly, and this is why Florida is bringing in Billy Napier, is recruiting. So, and again, that's why we've got so many coaching changes, because we are December 2nd. We are 13 days away from the early signing period. Now, this is a discussion for you and me later on, but I really do wonder, Shane, if they don't need to look at this early signing period, because I think there's some, if I can use the word, unintended consequences here in the coaching things that sped this up. If the signing period, my point is that the signing period goes back to first Wednesday of February, or if it was even earlier in July, late July or early August. The truth of the matter is, I don't think we'd be having this coaching carousel spinning as wildly as it is right now.
Yeah. Were you surprised that Mike Bobo's not going to be back as the OC at Auburn?
A little bit, but they have really struggled over the last few weeks. And again, the problem that goes with that, Shane, is that they have had they're going to have their fifth offensive coordinator in 5 years. Mm-hmm. Chip Lindsey, Dillingham, Chad Morris, Mike Bobo, and none of them have had a top 50 passing offense. So that's a problem. In Auburn's hand, Sean Shivers is in the transfer portal, and I think that's going to be a real loss for Auburn. We remember how fast that kid is. So Auburn on a losing streak. So it's going to be a really important offseason for Auburn. And Shane and I will get into this later. But Shane, the Bo Nix decision that's coming up will determine how they do next year.
Yeah. Are you surprised he's even thinking about transferring?
No. I think Bo. I think Bo thinks he's going higher eventually in the draft, and maybe he actually will. So I think for him, actually think, and again, he may stay at Auburn. We're not saying he's leaving, but he has been very tight-lipped about what he's going to do in the future at Auburn.
Yeah, I don't know where he thinks he's going to go. It's interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
Mark Stoops looks like he's going to be a long-time Kentucky head coach.
Well, that's tremendous for Kentucky. He has got an extension through 2028. Doesn't mean he'll be there until then. But they had another really good year. I mean, his name was mentioned for LSU. Was mentioned for Florida. It was mentioned for Oklahoma. Give him credit for that. I still think he is a tremendous coach. Listen, and again, I think we mentioned this. He has 58 wins. Bear Bryant had 60 wins at Kentucky. People forgot he was at Kentucky, and he's going to break that next year. Look, if you're Mark Stoops and you're going to be eventually the all-time winningest coach at Kentucky, they're going to do something for him, aren't they, Shane? Name the field after him or put a statue up for him or something like that. He has done a tremendous job at that school.
He really has. Were you surprised about Brian Kelly going to LSU?
Yes. Yeah, I was. I mean, now, look, there are a lot of questions about, and I'll be brief with this, about, will he fit the culture? I mean, look, Kelly can recruit. He can put together a staff. I mean, there's really nothing Kelly can't do, frankly. But I think he got the point where he wanted to be in the SEC. He wanted the challenge, felt that he could do more there. And again, in his press conference, he was trying not to take a shot at Notre Dame. And you've gone over this before, there are limitations at Notre Dame, aren't they, Shane? I mean, they're just academic things. They're just things that maybe facilities and so forth that you will have at LSU that you won't have there. So I think he saw the opportunity. Now look, I understand some of our folks at First Coast News have mentioned that he reached out to Florida, and Florida really wasn't interested. So, or again, we don't really know what happened there, but that he reached out and nothing happened. So, but Florida's fine, and I think he will be too. And by the way, Brian Kelly's first game with LSU next year will be against Florida State on Sunday, September the 4th in New Orleans. How about that?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. Brent, I wanted to get your thoughts on, I used to think Jimbo was a really good coach. I got my doubts now. I mean, they're losing games they should not lose.
Yes, that is correct. Yeah, I mean, they lost to Mississippi State. The LSU loss was absolutely inexcusable, frankly. So it was a 4-loss season for them. I mean, they brought him in there for a lot more than that, right? So it was disappointing. Listen, this year for them was very similar to what Kevin Sumlin did when he was there, and they were raising Cain about Kevin Sumlin being an 8-4 coach. But right now, that's kind of who they are. Obviously, the quarterback got hurt. Calzada did the best that he could do during the season, but he's not the ultimate answer with that situation. But I would agree with you. I think the jury is still out. I mean, obviously, he'll get a lot of equity from the Alabama win, but they expect a lot more at A&M than 8-4, don't they, Shane?
Well, they do. I saw a comparison between him and Sumlin's record, and Sumlin's record was better, and he had beaten higher-ranked teams more often. So I bet next year the heat is going to be turned up. Brent, before we let you go, got any nuggets for us?
Couple things. Hendon Hooker has not made any kind of decision at Tennessee.
What's he deciding on?
Well, I agree with that.
He's deciding on going to the NFL?
Well, probably, are you coming back next year type thing? Or are you going somewhere else?
He has zero chance playing in the National Football League.
Yeah,
zero.
Yeah, I agree. But he made a huge difference too. And let me say this also: Heisman Trophy deadline is this coming Monday at 5 p.m. They have sent us the ballots and basically as far as the Heisman, here are your odds: Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud of Ohio State, Matt Corral of Ole Miss, Kenny Pickett of Pitt, and Aidan Hutchinson, the defensive end at Michigan. Still think Will Anderson ought to be in that, and maybe even Jordan Davis with Georgia. So, look, this is a very difficult decision. I think one of the more difficult decisions, Shane, we've had in a while.
Yeah, I don't. If I was voting, I don't know who I would vote for. I really don't.
That's what I'm saying. I agree with you.
Yeah, it's crazy. It could be. I bet it's going to be one of the closest votes ever because I think people are going to have different people thrown in there, and
Sure.
I don't think it's going to be anybody running away now. If Bryce Young pulls off the upset and plays lights out, which he's very capable, I think he'll win it. He'll be the first Alabama quarterback to ever win. What's crazy is all the years of Alabama great football. Mark Ingram was their first Heisman Trophy winner, right?
Right, correct.
And that was in what, like 2000? I don't remember what year it was.
That would have been 2009 or 2010. Yes.
Then you had Derrick Henry right after him, and then you recently had Devontae Smith. It's like they got these really good skill players winning these awards, and had so many good teams and good players before that. Brent, great stuff as always. It should be a fun weekend. So right now, do you see any upsets in these in the I don't want to call them playoff games, in the championship games?
Well, look, right now, I think anything's possible, frankly. When we talked about Cincinnati possibly getting beat by Houston, Oklahoma State and Baylor, that could go about any way at this point. I mean, I still think Georgia will win, but would it shock me if Alabama does? No, it certainly wouldn't. So I think we've got some games this year that are just almost anything's capable of going on, and it should be a fun Friday and Saturday for championship games.
No doubt about it. Well, Brent, sit back and enjoy it, and we'll talk to you next week, bud.
Can't wait, bud. Take care.
Yep, that's Brent Beaird, our Heisman Trophy voter and college football analyst. Join us on the Titan MR hotline. We're going to take our first time out, come back, do a little Baker Sporting Goods High School roundup. It's the Final Four kicking off tomorrow night in Florida high school football, and we'll talk with the PrepZone.com's marvelous Marty Pallman. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Great Clips, it's gonna be great. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, South State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker, MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Wrap Spot, Okito America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Big Mills Cheesesteaks. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Celebration Point's where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Nike, Regal Cinemas, Le Macaron, Dave & Buster's, Medici's, Palmetto Moon, and the HBC's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, now serving brunch on Saturday and Sundays. We'll see you at Celebration Point where the Gators go to celebrate. We're now going to switch gears a little bit and go to the high school football playoffs on our Baker Sporting Goods High School Roundup with the PrepZone.com's marvelous Marty Pallman. Good morning, Marty. How are you, buddy?
Good morning, Shane. Well, we still got a few teams to talk about, so that's always good news. 1 week away from the state championships next week in Tallahassee.
Well, that's true. You got to remember, Marty, this is a worldwide program you're on right now. So we have people in the Panhandle that listen, people down south that listen to us. But here locally in the North Central Florida area, we have 3 teams still vying in the Final Four to get to the state title. Let's start in 1A football. You got Hawthorne and Chiefland. They're pretty close to one another, and for some reason they're not playing this week. It makes no sense to me. I can't even understand the Florida High School Athletic Association's way they do playoffs. Talk about the opponents of Chiefland and Hawthorne.
Well, you're right, because we could have Hawthorne and Chiefland playing for a state title, and that would be, you're right, they're about 40 miles from each other. But, yeah, this week they have to get past the state semifinals. Hawthorne is facing Chipley, and Chipley's a team coming in from the Panhandle, and they upset Baker last week, who was the defending 1A state champion, who beat Hawthorne last year in the state championship game. So Chipley's a pretty good team, but the problem is you just don't know a lot about them. If you look at their numbers, though, they're a pretty balanced team. They'll throw it around a little bit. They'll run it as well. But Hawthorne is just defensively has been so good this year again, and Jalen Ruth has 130 tackles for them. They've just been, last week against Pahokee, they give up a pick 6 early, and then they just took over the game. Hawthorne got 2 pick 6s late, ended up putting 50 points on Pahokee, who's a pretty good team coming in from South Florida down in down around Lake Okeechobee. So, I would say Hawthorne favored to win that game against Chipley this week at home. And then the other game, Chiefland's going to have a chance full of Madison County, because Madison County, you know them, Shane, a school that probably shouldn't be in 1A, but they play a competition that's up to about 4A, 5A, 6A usually every year. But, give Chiefland credit. I don't think a lot of people thought they'd get past Union County last week, and they got it done. And they got it done with a block punt for a touchdown late. They actually threw the ball a little bit. Chiefland doesn't throw the ball more than maybe 4 or 5 times a year sometimes. And, they threw it a little bit last week, and they got the win against Union County. I think Madison County is favored, but that game in Chiefland, Chiefland's got a chance. And it's been a long time, 1998, since Chiefland's made it this far in the postseason. So congratulations to them for making it to the state semifinal as well.
Yeah, we got a lot of comments on here about how Madison's going to just dominate Chiefland, which, again, that makes no sense to me. Madison's much closer to Chipley, so they should be playing, and Hawthorne and Chiefland should be playing. So I guess I'm not smart enough to understand what the hell they do.
No.
So, yeah. I mean, do you agree with that, Marty, or am I crazy?
Well, no. What happened this year is, for the first year, the FHSA, in the past, you would have had, 1A is different anyway, because most of the schools are in Panhandle and North Central Florida. But all the other classifications, and this is why Buchholz has to go to St. Thomas Aquinas.
Which is stupid.
Yeah, I know. It's a long trip. It's five hours for a state semifinal game. And then if you win, Buchholz goes back down there for the state championship game, because they're in Fort Lauderdale in a week or so. But, this year the FHSA decided to change it up and make it based on the RPI instead of, in the past, the North would have played the South in the championship game. But they decided to switch that up and make it semifinals, reseed the 4 teams. And that's why Buchholz, instead of going to Tampa Bay or to Lake Gibson or one of those schools down in Lakeland and Tampa, has got to go all the way to Fort Lauderdale. So, I mean, that's what it is. That's
right. Well, I'm not worried about the travel. What I'm saying is, every other state in America divides their state in half, and you have a North champion play a South champion. And that there's no reason Buchholz should be playing St. Thomas Aquinas unless it's for the state championship. That's what I'm saying. And I know they reseed them and all that, but it's stupid. It's absolutely dumb. And anybody that wants to argue with me can argue with me, but I think it's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that St. Thomas Aquinas is even playing Buchholz, because they should be playing another private school. They should not be playing a public school. Florida's the only other state that does that. It pisses me off.
Well, no, I can tell, and I'm not arguing with you about it, because I think you're right. But, in the past, this would have been a state championship game, Buchholz and St. Thomas Aquinas. They would have played in a couple weeks down in Fort Lauderdale for the state title. This year it's changed, and now Buchholz has to go there, 2 weeks early. And not that I don't think Buchholz can win down there, but, I mean, let's be honest, they're playing an IMG type of team down there.
Yeah, they're playing a team that recruits the entire Fort Lauderdale area. It's not fair. Right. We had a comment here on Facebook Live. Where is it? It says, Chris wants to know, does UF send a scout? Well, he won't send a scout. They'd send a coach to these games to see kids who don't go to these camps. If anybody is playing in these games and they're on the radar, they will have coaches there to watch. But some of these teams may not have anyone that a Power 5 school is interested in. Now, obviously, St. Thomas Aquinas has kids year in and year out. So there will be college coaches at these games this week. Real quick, let's talk about the Buchholz game. I've talked to some people who say St. Thomas is not as dominant as they've been in the past. That this is, if there's a year to beat them before the state title game, Buchholz has a good opportunity. Your thoughts?
Actually, I agree with you on that, because this Buchholz team has shown all year they're predicated with defense and running the ball. And I think defensively, they're a team that can give Aquinas a lot of problems. And it's just 1 through 11 on that defense. I mean, their defensive line is maybe one of the best in the state, if not the best. So I think Buchholz has a chance to really stay with Aquinas in that game. The only thing that bothers me is that having to make that trip all the way down there is how that'll affect Buchholz. But I don't know if it will. Maybe they're to the point where that stuff like that won't get to him. Buchholz has had to go to the Panhandle before and win against teams like Navarre, but the only thing with Aquinas is I think you're right. This is not a nationally ranked Aquinas team. We're not hearing as much about them as we have in past years. And they do only have one loss this year, which I think was to Cardinal Gibbons, I believe. But that's who Buchholz lost to. But Aquinas is. I think you're right. I think Buchholz can give them problems. Of course, I was listening to people in South Florida, and they think, well, who's this Buchholz team coming down here? They don't have any chance. But I think this is the time of year when you see these teams. These South Florida teams always think they're going to dominate. The folks down there see that. They're gonna be pleasantly unhappy to see how good Buchholz is when they come down there, and the speed that Buchholz has on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, the people down south, they're used to hearing some other Trinity Christian or some Bowles or another private school.
Well,
Buchholz has a few kids that have come from GHS and a few kids from Eastside, but there's no comparison in what they do at St. Thomas Aquinas to what they do at a public school like Buchholz. It's not even fair, and it irritates the hell out of me.
And I think Creed Whittemore is going to give them a lot of problems. I mean, he can run all over the field. He's going to be a problem for Aquinas in this game. By the way, their only loss was to Jesuit by 3, so that's a really good team. Aquinas has had
another private school.
Yeah, another private school. That's who they play. American Heritage, people from out of state. Yeah, right. So,
John says y'all left out Jones and Orlando. They're having to travel to Pine Forest. Jones, I believe, is coached by former Gator Eli Williams. And boy, is that a long trip from Orlando to Pensacola.
That is. And Jones just beat Vanguard last week and knocked them out in the region final. So now that their reward is to go to Pensacola. And speaking of that, Baker County, who advanced to the state semifinal with a win last week over McCullough, has got to go to Miami Central in 5A, which, they got to play down at Travis Powell, which those kids are never seen a place like that before. But that's another one that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if Pine Forest beats Orlando Jones, and then they have to travel all the way to Fort Lauderdale to play for a state title? Again, who came up with the idea, put the damn games in Orlando? It makes no sense. That way everybody's centrally located. So, but anyway, the FHSA drives me crazy. All right, Marty. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. The local teams in the Gainesville, North Central Florida area, which ones win this week?
Hawthorne's going to win. I like them. And I think, unfortunately, I wouldn't pick Chiefland. I think Madison County will win that game. But I think of the three, Hawthorne does have the best chance being at home. They're favored in that game. I like Buchholz to play tough. I wouldn't pick them just because it's such a tough trip to go all the way down there and play that team. But I think Buchholz, if they win, I won't be surprised at all. But of the three right now, I would definitely say Hawthorne's the team that's probably going to get it done this week and play in Tallahassee next week for a state title. So it'll be the second year in a row for them.
John put on Facebook Live, Marty, brought to you by Mel Law. He says, the FHSA is looking for a new executive director. Shane is the man for the job. I don't want it. I just want them to make sensible decisions. I do not. Maybe Marty should take that job.
No, I don't want that job.
You don't want that job either. All right.
No.
All right, Marty, before we let you go, basketball's cranked up in high school. Who are some of the local teams that are pretty good so far?
Well, the other night, a game that Mike Rideout broadcast on the radio in Gainesville, GHS defeated Santa Fe by 1 in overtime. So that was a really good game to start the year. Only the second game for Gainesville High. They're 2-0. Santa Fe actually, of course, played for a state title last spring. Santa Fe is off to an 0-2 start, but they've got to replace Ernest Ross, who was at NC State. Santa Fe's also has a new coach, and that's the one story we're going to find out is Eastside opens their season tonight over against Matanzas on the road. And PK Young plays GHS next week, so we'll have one of those early City Wild War games. But the story of this season in Gainesville, really, just in this area alone for basketball, is all the new coaches. I mean, of course, GHS, Kelly Beckham retired in the off season. Buholtz has a new coach again, and Blake Golden. St. Francis has a new coach, Santa Fe. Coach Banks has taken over there for Elliott Harris after almost winning the state title. So just a lot of turnover in the high school boys basketball coaches from a year ago. The only exception being Eastside. Pop Williams is probably not ever going anywhere. But, you know, it has been a busy off season really for a lot of these schools. And I think, well, it's going to be interesting to see how the season goes on because, you know, you never know with these first-year coaches. I think Gainesville's got some talent, and so does PK Young. So we'll see. They're going to play next week. We're going to broadcast that game next Tuesday. So, yeah, we're getting going with basketball already, even though there's still a couple of football games to go.
Are you on the call for any games tomorrow night, Marty?
Yeah, I'll be in Hawthorne tomorrow night. We're broadcasting that on NFHS Network video stream, and there'll be an audio broadcast as well. So I'll be over there tomorrow night, and then if Hawthorne wins, we'll be bringing that game from Tallahassee next week. Mike Rideout and I will be going over there to do that on the radio a week from Saturday if Hawthorne advances to the state championship game. So that's the plan right now. We've still got a couple more games coming up.
Real quick, we got a question before we let you go. John wants to know, who is Florida High out of Tallahassee playing in 3A?
Florida High. Well, they knocked off Trinity Catholic last week.
Right.
In Ocala. They are going to be
they're going way south, I believe, right?
Yeah, and that's another one. They're going to Chaminade Madonna, which is Hollywood.
Oh, Lord.
And that's another one where, see, if Florida High wins that game, they'll play the state championship game in Tallahassee next week. They'll basically be at home in Class 3A. So that's where 1A through 3A championship games are. So, yeah, that's another one. But Florida High's got to go on the road against the defending state champ there in South Florida this week, Chaminade Madonna.
All right. Well, good stuff as always, Marty. Have a good call tomorrow night, and we'll talk to you soon, bud.
All right. Good talking to you, Shane. Thanks a lot.
That's marvelous Marty Pallman from the PrepZone.com. Join us on the Titan MRI hotline. We're going to take our final time out, come back and wrap up this Thursday edition.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Great Clips, it's gonna be great. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, South State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co. Some of our touchdown sponsors are MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avera and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Ruse Ogra Agent, State Farm Insurance, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. At South State Bank, we understand that small business need a community business partner that they can rely on. South State has 4 convenient Alachua County locations. South State Bank, banking for member FDIC. This day in sports brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. They are hiring and they're giving $1,000 signing bonus for qualified positions. Give Comfort Temp a call, 352-376-2366. This day in sports, in 1981, pitcher Fernando Valenzuela becomes the 3rd consecutive LA Dodger to be named National League Rookie of the Year. Rick Sutcliffe in 79, Steve Howe in 1980, and Fernando in 81. That's brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. A couple of Facebook Lives before we get out of here. John and Joseph, they must be Madison County Cowboys. They're talking about Madison County dresses 73. Yeah, well, they're not a normal. They're classified as 1A, but with their little school over there allows them to have a bunch of players. They could give Bowles or Trinity Christian a good game. Yeah, they do a tremendous job over there. There's no question. But they're probably not a 1A football team. But anyway, good luck to all the teams playing tomorrow. Gators lost to Oklahoma. They'll bounce back. Hope you enjoyed today's show. Today's show is a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. We'll see you tomorrow, folks.